Hello. My name is CraftYoutube, and welcome back to another Hypixel Skyblock video. I know, I can't believe I'm uploading again. I'm gonna be honest, at the time of recording this, I have not yet finished even editing the last video, much less posting it. But I'm gonna guess that you guys received it great, and there was overwhelming success, so thank you for that. That last video received more views than any of my videos on this channel before. So seriously, thank you for that. If that wasn't the case, just ignore this and pretend that I didn't say anything, alright? Yeah. Sound good? Well, you might be wondering where I am, and the answer is in a very familiar location in the lobby known as the Dungeon Hubs. Right behind me is the entrance to the Catacombs, that other dungeon, you know, the stuff they'll totally make eventually. And to get started on this video, I made a lot of progress off camera. The first thing to note is, of course, I've played a little bit of dungeons off camera, and I made some money. I have a whole whopping 9.2 million coins to my name, which may not seem like a lot to the average Skyblock player, but for this profile existing for about a week, that's actually a really good start. Now, you may be asking, how did I make money? And the answer to that question is I actually played a lot of dungeons. Not like a ton. I have done 4 runs of floor 1, 14 runs of floor 2, and then 2 runs of floor 3. And all of that money came from my 14 runs of floor 2. Now, if you find yourself asking exactly how I was able to make 9.2 million coins from floor 2, isn't that like the second floor? How did you make so much money? Well, to answer that question, I would like to direct your attention to the auction house, where we're going to look for something called Scarf Studies. This is an item that sells for 1.8 million coins on the auction house pretty much every single day. You could probably sell it for even more than that. The lowest I've seen the success rate go for over the past week is probably about 1.2 mil. Considering that this item has a 1% chance to drop in the gold chest, a 1% chance to drop in the diamond chest, a 3.5% chance to drop in the emerald chest, and a 13% chance to drop in the obsidian chest, it's not exactly rare. I've dropped about 3 and 14 runs, and those 14 runs did not take me more than 2 hours, which means that I was making about 3 mil an hour for just getting started in the game. I also managed to drop a recom in one of those early chests, which is another way that you can make a lot of money. And that gave me like 10 million coins that I could just play with however I wanted. And oh boy, did I. The first thing to note is obviously the island has not had many changes, except for all of the minions have gotten a lot more upgraded. And there's a gravel minion and a fishing minion now, which is good because fishing XP sucks to get. So the first thing that I did with this new money was really just buy some upgrades to my profile that would allow me to really get into dungeons. The first of those upgrades being the strong dragon armor. Now the enchant is nothing special, it's only reforged with fierce, and it doesn't even have hot potato books on it yet. But this set has made such a difference in my gameplay already. It is exactly the same as Ender Armor on the end, and then the same as Ender Armor on the end, except when I'm not on the end as well. Which means I actually was able to really get started in Slayers and do some combat stuff, which I think is really important, because that means that I was able to get my combat level up to a solid 20. The next thing I did was I took some of the essence that I got from doing the Ender Armor grind on the end, and I used it to upgrade my dragon shortbow. For those of you that don't know, if you go into the dragon's nest in the end, there's actually a place to salvage Ender Armor and then all of the different equipment pieces, and that will give you usually about 3 dragon essence. So if you do that enough, you'll get enough essence to fully 5-star a weapon without even playing dungeons. I also got it dungeonized quite a while later, I'm not gonna lie. It took me a minute to realize that 5-starring and dungeonizing are not the same thing. The 5 stars gave me some minor sap boosts, but it wasn't doing anything different in dungeons than outside of dungeons until I was able to dungeonize it, and that's what the gray numbers mean. Now with that being said, armor and a weapon was not the only thing I needed. I also needed a pet to be my best friends on this adventure. And for this fantastic role, I specifically chose the skeleton pet, which is the best early game archer weapon. Later down the line, I'm going to upgrade to the wither skeleton, but I wanted to have my first legendary pet be something related to dungeons, since that's kind of the main goal of this profile. And it's not exactly a very high level, but I did get it at level 1, and I've been kind of just leveling up as I go, using my bestiary milestones on this. And it gives some pretty solid stats. First, we've got a little bit of crit chance, a little bit of crit damage. Then we've got bone arrows, a perk which increases arrow damage by 33%, which would be 66% while in dungeons. Then it has a perk called combo, which gives you a stack for every bow hit, granting 3 strength, up to 27 strength, which disappears after 8 seconds. The third perk, which is actually proved pretty useful, is the skeleton will shoot an arrow, dealing 30 times your crit damage when a mob gets too close to you, which can help if you're getting kind of overwhelmed by a bunch of mobs in a dungeon room. Now, full dragon armor cost me about 6 million coins, and this pet cost me about 4, which pretty much took up all the money I had. But while that did take up all the money I had, I was able to get some more money down the line just by getting another scarf studies and selling it, which I used to invest in the aspect of the dragon. While I was doing fairly alright inside of dungeons, I needed a weapon that would allow me to do good outside of dungeons and really progress into slayers and getting some of those other levels up. And the aspect of the dragons was the weapon to do it. For less than the cost of 1 scarf studies, I get this weapon, which is a massive upgrade on the Void Sword. For those of you who do not remember, the Void Sword gives a base of 125 damage and a maximum of 125 damage plus 160 strength with the full Ender Armor set. However, since I'm no longer using Ender Armor and I'm now using Dragon Armor, this buff is reduced by half. And the reason that it was only half is because I was still using the equipment at this point, but it was enough of a difference where this sword immediately outshines it with 225 damage and 100 strength. Plus, you add a much better reforge to it because it's a legendary weapon and gets better stats from the exact same reforge. Overall, this was the difference between me being able to do tier 4 zombie slayers versus tier 3, and I think that was worthwhile. Now, you might be wondering, what is that I just heard? Tier 4 zombies? I did a little bit of Slayer as well, being able to defeat not only the tier 2, the tier 3, but also the tier 4 Revenant Horror, and make my way to Zombie Slayer level 5, which gave me a lot of Skyblock XP, and really get me prepared to start on the grind before we get to the next Aatrox. And the reason for that is because during the next Aatrox, I really want to get into Ender Slayer and get to at least Ender Slayer level 5 so I can unlock the Juju Shortbow. And the idea is when I unlock the Juju Shortbow will also roughly be the time where I'm able to really get started in floor 5 of dungeons. And this matters because that's when you start getting really good teams, that's when you start actually going for decent loot like the Shadow Assassin armor, as well as weapons like the Shadow Fury. And with the Juju Bow, if I get progressed enough, I could actually bring it into floor 6 and maybe even early floor 7 before I'm able to get a Terminator. Now, a Terminator is one of the late game weapons, but it is also the archer weapon, so we will be going for it at some point. The only problem is it requires Ender Slayer level 7, and Ender Slayer is not exactly an easy boss to do, so we're quite a ways away from it. Now, with that being said, I am getting a little bit ahead of myself. The Terminator is not going to be for a while yet. And I think I'm also getting a little bit ahead of some of you guys. There may be some of you that don't even know what this is. I just happen to have a lot of years playing this game, so I know that I might be getting a little bit ahead of some of the newer players in terms of terminology and stuff. So if any of you have any questions about what I'm talking about, or if you need me to elaborate more, please do let me know in the comments and I'll be more than happy to accommodate. But also, if everybody understands what I'm talking about, I don't want to waste too much time explaining things because then we get less of the action. So speaking of the action, this video is going to be probably at least 50 runs, maybe more. That's going to be as many S runs of floor 2 as possible. And that way I can build up my own accessory collection for reaching the 3 Scarves Thesis, which is an epic accessory that is worth 4 of the Scarf studies at 50 runs, and maybe even get to a golden scarf head, which might be useful down the line when I get into master mode. And I can also make a lot of profit, which will really let me get into some other aspects of the game, like mining, which is really good for money, but it costs a lot more money to get into. So let's get into it already. The hardest part about this is definitely finding actually decent parties to join that aren't just throwing the whole time. Unfortunately, you know, with being one of the lowest floors, floor 2 definitely has a lot of newer players that are just trying to learn how to play the game on a floor that actually fits their skill level. So for someone like me who definitely already knows how to do dungeon mechanics, it's a little bit weird to play such an early floor and then deal with such slow clears and people not really doing secrets and stuff. But we'll make it through. Looks like this is a fairly decent team, so I'm gonna hang out here by the door. And like I was saying last video, I mean, this isn't terrible damage, right? Is it anything to write home about? No, but I do like 60k, and you know, I can kill this lost adventurer pretty quickly. I definitely think I like the gameplay of an archer clear the best. Now, when you get to master mode, pretty much everybody does the exact same thing, so it doesn't really matter what class you're playing. But in the time being on these early floors, especially when I get to floor 5, which is actually one of my favorite floors, it's gonna be really fun. Like, see, easiest boss kill ever. Now, if I ever try to do floor 3, this does not look nearly as simple. I kind of get destroyed. But floor 2 is kind of my jazz. You know, I'm pretty low level, but I'm getting on it, right? I am actually waiting for Catacombs 12 to get my armor started, so I am definitely a little bit squishy. But once I get my armor dungeonized, that's going to be a little bit different. I do actually want to collect these different journals as well, because while it's not a major part of the game, I do think that they put a lot of time into the lore behind these floors, and I think it's actually pretty interesting for the most part. And as you can see, you know, secret waypoints make everything a lot easier. I think it's just fun to find like the quickest ways to go between them. I'm definitely not the kind of guy that knows a lot of secret routes. Not that you can really do very many secret routes without an aspect to the void anyway, and an ether warp transmission, which is basically an ability that lets you teleport like 42 blocks away and then through like any half blocks, which is like a slab or etc. if it's in the ceiling. So like here I could like teleport through the floor, which makes it a lot easier to do secrets. And luckily for me, since I'm going for the Jujubo, I am going to get that weapon anyway because it comes from Ender Slayer. Now, the boss fight of Scarf I find is actually the hardest part because these guys just move a lot, which makes it kind of hard to actually hit them. So like as an archer, I can do pretty good damage, but he's moving too much that I can't do much. We definitely have some actually good teammates, like this guy's got a Livid Dagger and Shadow Assassin, which sucks because, you know, that's way further in the game than I am, and it's kind of like being carried, but with the lack of a like selection of options for parties, it's kind of hard to be like, I don't want this. And I'm definitely still carrying my own weight. I did secrets, I got damage milestones, I didn't die or anything. One of the other benefits of playing dungeons this early on is that I can really easily get some basic items and armor sets to put in the museum, which is giving me a lot of Skyblock XP. Through doing the Rift and then playing dungeons as well as just like leveling up Slayers and stuff, I've actually gotten so much Skyblock XP and progressed a lot. I'm now a solid Skyblock level 62. And I think when I was really doing the majority of the content for the last video, I was at like Skyblock level 20. I did also get started on the Fairy Souls, and by started I mean I did everything except for the Crimson Owl and then the Miscellaneous Souls, which I'll definitely get more of them down the line. It's just kind of hard to get them once I can't access yet. But yeah, I really just like the gameplay loop of dungeons where it's kind of like running around doing different secrets and stuff. Just kind of playing on autopilot, doing some good damage and really just enjoying the game. Like this guy, do I need to kill him? No, I'm gonna. Because why not? And we're already in the boss fight apparently. I will say, my whole screen setup for doing dungeons isn't the prettiest, but it's handy. Oh my god, I actually dropped another ecom. And a Scarf Studies. See, now this is why I like floor 2, right? That right there is 1.7 million coins profit. That right there is 5 million coins profit, all from one run. Now, am I a kind of RNG carry? Maybe, but that's irrelevant. So, unfortunately, it has been a while since that last clip was recorded. I got a really busy schedule over the past week, and while I was gone, Aatrox got elected as mayor. This means it's time for some Slayer grinding. I had already started working on Slayers after the last video, and I managed to get all 3 of the basic Slayers up to level 3, but all of the good items come from level 6 and above, so there's definitely some work to do. However, before I can get into this grind, I need 2 specific items. I spent the last of my money on a booster cookie and a god potion that give me a massive buff to my damage and skill experience, which will make this grind a lot easier if I can take advantage of them both. Now, with those upgrades finished, it's time to get into Zombie Slayer. Wait, what? Let's go. Smite 6, 0.1 coins. And there it is. Zombie Slayer level 6. I don't even know how many more bosses I need at this point. I think it's 3 after this one. If everything sells though, this is actually literally profit. Like, I'm making money from doing Tarantula Slayer right now, which is crazy. Watch this be for level 5 and not level 6. That would perhaps be the saddest thing. Alright, this is the last boss before Spider Slayer 6. And there we go. That should do it. Spider Slayer level 6. Alright, Spider Slayer is done. That means we're 2/3 of the way to Auto Slayer unlocked. And that only took me like 30 minutes. Now I have Spin Slayer, which unfortunately I think is gonna take a lot longer. So let's get into it. Now, when I was doing this to get to Wolf Slayer level 3, I kept inconsistently dying, and I still don't know why. Oh, you know, it might be helpful to start the Slayer quest. This grind is definitely a lot easier with Aatrox though, because I only have to kill 24 bosses to get from level 5 to level 6. The problem is, it's just annoying to do. And especially so because normally you'd want to do this in the park, and in the Howling Cave. Unfortunately, that place is so busy I can't even consistently spawn bosses. And then some of them I can't even beat because I'm not really strong enough to do it without the water. And there's not really a way to consistently always spawn it in the water there. However, there is here, so we're going to take advantage of that. This boss actually does damage too. Like, the first two are definitely a joke with the zombie boss and then the spider boss. They don't really do very much damage. They just have a lot of health. Now this one has a lot less health, but does half of my health in one hit, so luckily I do have a booster cookie, so I should be alright. Alrighty, there it is. The last Sven Slayer quest. And we unlocked Auto Slayer. Final boss, here we go. And there it is. Zombie Slayer level 7, which unlocks +5 health, the zombie artifact, the Reaper Mask, Reaper Scythe, Wand of Atonement, and then the rest of the Reaper set of armor, plus 125 Skyblock XP. And now I can see the levels for zombie level 8, 9, and then eventually 10. Unfortunately, my booster cookie ran out, so I have to go and do this manually. That was a lot of Slayer, and I mean a lot of Slayer. And at the time of recording this video, I haven't even done the grind for Zombie Slayer level 7 yet, although I probably will have by the time that this clip is inserted in the video. So this sucks. I kind of hate Slayers now. Like, it was fun, but also, damn. On the bright side though, one thing I forgot to mention before is that the next mayor is actually Paul, which means that in 2 days we'll have the perfect setup to transition back into dungeons and really start taking advantage of this money making up. I think it's gonna work out really well. Alrighty, since we're done with Slayers, we won't be needing this guy again for a while. So let's throw him in here and pay the fee. And in 5 days, our wolf here will come back with a new legendary rarity. If you made it this far in the video, please leave a comment down below with your ideas for what we should name this wolf pet. I want to name all the pets that I get that I'm going to be keeping, because I'll be keeping them for the rest of this profile, and I think it just adds a little bit of personality. Plus, this guy had to suffer through the same 8 hours of grinding that I did for Slayers, so we might as well give him a treat. Alrighty, and with that, we finally did it. Over the course of this video, I have achieved Wolf Slayer level 6, Spider Slayer level 6, and Zombie Slayer level 7. It probably took about 8 hours of work for the Slayers alone, so unfortunately there will not be any more dungeons in this video. I have unlocked a lot of items that are going to be very important in the near future, but I have also used a lot of money up. I spent about 3.1 million coins on boss spawns for Zombie Slayer alone, with easily around another 2 million coins on Wolf and Spider Slayers. I managed to make most of that money back from Spider Slayer, which for some reason is so good for money, and I don't understand why. And also a little bit back from Zombie Slayer. However, I am still over 700,000 coins in debt. And while we won't be doing any more dungeons in this video, we have Paul as the next mayor, which is the perfect time to get into a bunch of dungeons, so definitely expect that in the next video. All in all, this was a pretty good video. We made a lot of progress in combat by getting into dungeons a little bit, doing some floor 2s, buying some better armor as well as a decent early game weapon, and progressing through the first 3 Slayers. We have a long way to go still in Slayers, since I want to unlock the Juju Shortbow and eventually the Terminator from the Enderman Slayer. But before we can do that, we need to get some skill levels and some way better armor and weapons. And unfortunately, you're going to be getting most of that armor and that weapons from the dungeons. I can already tell I am going to need a really good money making method here soon, with a combination of Slayers and skills and dungeons, since it does cost a lot to open chests in dungeons, and eventually I'm not going to be making any profit. Plus, the floor 2 strategy can only survive so long before I'm going to need a much more efficient money making method. With that being said though, thank you all for the support on the last video, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and even consider subscribing down below. It really does help get that video out to more viewers, which is exactly what happened with the last video, so let's see if we can make it happen again. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.